Hi everyone, if you're new to the space, before we go and talk to the people at CoinGeek, we thought we'd quickly explain what Bitcoin SV is. Bitcoin SV is a coin split from the Bitcoin Cash project that happened in November 2018. Previous to that, Bitcoin Cash had split from Bitcoin. That happened in August 2017. The belief within Bitcoin SV is that they are in fact the original Bitcoin. So in our ongoing content, we're really going to dig deeper into that and find out what all the facts are and try and understand for ourselves if that is in fact the case. We're here at the CoinGeek conference, so let's go meet them. So I saw an interview you did a while back. You said your first line of code, you wrote in the sand as a young nipper. How old were you and how long have you been coding?
I think I might have been in grade 5-ish, so
what age is
10
that?
or 12, or something like that. Yeah, I had a friend whose dad was a computer scientist and had an old IBM PC at home that he'd learned, I think it might have been Fortran on.
Okay.
So he taught me my first coding tricks, I guess, the first few rules of Fortran by literally writing it in the sand.
Awesome. So somebody that's sort of looking in on this space now, how would you describe the major difference between Bitcoin as most people know it and what's happening at BSV? Obviously, you know, my understanding of what I'm trying to get across to people is that you guys are removing the cap on the block size. So in short, for someone that isn't technical, what does that actually mean?
Look, if I had to sum it up in one word, I would say utility. Bitcoin SV is actually useful because of scale, and it's useful in any number of ways, and we don't even know what all those ways are just now. The ability to store data on the blockchain in a structured way is an area that we're really just starting to explore and see the potential of right now. But of course, payments, being able to transact quickly, safely, and in the kind of volumes that are required to run a global economy, it just isn't possible on blockchains that are constrained.
Right. So you're not just digital gold would be kind of one of the things to say.
No. Well, I mean, this whole notion of store of value is. If you're going to rely on something as a store of value, you need to be able to explain where that value comes from. And if the value is just because a bunch of people believe it, then I don't know. For me, it doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence. If the value is underpinned by utility, on the other hand, then that's a different story.
So you got what is a hard fork effectively. You got one more big one coming up. Is that right? And then
there'll probably be
no cap?
Yes, there'll be no cap. It may not be the last protocol modification because there's a couple of things left over to sort of undo. So we're not quite sure exactly when that one would happen. Maybe November of last year, but after February there'll be no cap. It'll be regulated by the miners to some extent. It already is since the Quasar upgrade, but they can currently regulate it up to 2 gigabytes themselves, but after that,
So what's the most exciting thing happening in BSV right now for you?
Well, just looking around this conference, the amount of activity that's going on, the amount of building that's happening. Each of these conferences I think that we've had, I've felt like the whole ecosystem is sort of stepping into a new phase. I said yesterday that was a day for celebrating delivery because so many projects that have been in the pipeline for many months are actually starting to pop out and become real. And I suspect maybe the next one will be about recombining existing projects because once people sort of see them, and this has happened, I've noticed this many times over the last few days, I see lots and lots of different projects that app developers are working on, and in the back of my head I go, you need to go talk to this guy because if you two combined your project, you'd have you'd make some magic.
Okay. So you're yet another Aussie in the space.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
What's going on here?
I'm not sure why Australia is such a hotbed for for Bitcoin activity. But yeah.
Was it Craig that recruited you, or did you guys know each other previously, or how did that all happen?
He claims he knew me, but I don't recall it. So yeah, well, I lived in Brisbane for 20 odd years, only a few kilometres from where he grew up, but we didn't cross paths then. We crossed paths online, unsurprisingly.
So the whole sort of issue of him saying, "Hey, I wrote the white paper," it's created a lot of drama. There's a lot of passion surrounding that whole topic. For you, was it something that you needed to be proven to yourself, or have you always sort of been fairly convinced this guy has, I thought he was Satoshi, or...
I try to look at it a little bit differently, and I wrote an article about this a little while. I'm not comfortable with the idea of us requiring Craig to be this mythical figure, because the work that Craig does, as Craig Wright, it stands on its own.
Yeah, I agree.
The man has an unprecedented understanding of Bitcoin. He's talked to me and explained things to me that 10 years on no one ever figured out, and they just make sense. So yeah, I guess the question's not all that important to me. It's a novelty and an interesting thing that people get quite worked up about. But Craig is Craig, and I like working with him. And if we're going to if you want to pick someone to work with around Bitcoin, then you couldn't pick anyone better.
So you really do consider him the most knowledgeable guy in the space, I guess is what you're saying.
Pretty much.
Or is it you now, Steve?
No, he still teaches me a thing or two. He's definitely the most knowledgeable guy. Sometimes it can be hard to understand what he's talking about. He can occasionally be a bit inarticulate, but if you persist and take it in the spirit which is intended, if you
sure there's a bit of Aussie banter there, is there?
Oh yes. I have a coffee mug that he gave me for Christmas last year that has a profound four-letter word on it. So.
Okay. What letter does it start with?
C. Okay. I considered it a term of endearment.
Right. Okay. Yeah, there's obviously a good friendship there then. Excellent. So hey, thanks so much for your time. It's been a pleasure to come and meet the BSV team again. You're doing some amazing things here.
Thank you.
Cheers. This was the second time this year that I've met up with the Bitcoin BSV crowd. First time was back in June. I sat down and interviewed Craig Wright on that occasion. What is Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is a global ledger and electronic cash.
This time around, it was great to catch up with him and see what he's all about socially. The guy's a hell of a lot of fun. Another person that I found really interesting to talk to was the head of marketing from the Bitcoin Association. What frustrated me with Bitcoin BTC was often the attitude from a lot of people there is Bitcoin doesn't need marketing, which I strongly disagree with. I think the whole point here is to let the world know what is here.
Probably something that said by people who have never done marketing themselves, or don't come from a marketing background. Or if we're going to compete, if we're going to build a BSV version of an ERP like Salesforce, you're going to need to market at some point.
We met up again with Lawrence, the CEO from Skyhook Capital. We'll be covering what they think of the BSV project over the coming weeks. Here were his thoughts at the end of day 2.
So I think BSV is well positioned there. I think the other thing that they're, the MetaNet is very interesting because if you've now got a situation, and it really comes down to adoption, of course, but if you've got a situation where you've just got lots of different applications, data on that platform, in the MetaNet itself, then you can start to apply AI technology to do the integration of data, and I would therefore assume the way it's now structured, it's not unstructured data as such, sitting on this sort of new layer of an internet, I think opens up amazing possibilities. And again, they're well positioned if that starts to get widely adopted.
So you've been pretty impressed then with what you've seen? You learned anything new?
I have. I mean, there's still a few questions that, things such as, well, with mining, you want to have a very, very distributed mining base, right? I mean, the whole idea, it's more secure if you've got more miners.
Correct.
So there's some things there that I think in the course of time, you'll see.
Well, they need people actually using the chain, don't they, to attract the miners?
Correct.
Yeah.
And they've got good they've got a ramp of transaction growth at the moment, but they need the right projects on it to have that continue up the chain. And frankly, just, it's all good to have. The music download or the music streaming music service is quite a good one. Entertainment is not a bad one. However, you could do those applications without the blockchain to a certain degree. Yeah. And you've got a lot of competition in that market.
Yeah, true.
Now, if you start to get specialised, do things that cannot be done elsewhere, which is sort of what we're proposing.
Yeah.
In the financial services space, where now you have lots of money flow.
Yeah.
Once you've got that being onboarded onto your blockchain, then that's going to determine really who's going to be the major winners and not. So just like the internet, really. E-commerce transaction flows that started to come online with online trading platforms. And, this sort of technology really took the whole internet to a complete new level. And I think it will play out the exact same way on the blockchain.
True.
You've been getting all of that as well, have you, Jesse?
Have so.
I tell you, impromptus.
Here we are, Point Geek Party. Looks like it might be alright.
It's Michael Nye. My thoughts of BSV at this stage are that this is a project that I'll be following closely. I like these people. I like what they're doing. In short, I've recommended BSV to a number of companies and they're currently assessing what BSV has to offer. We've got a lot of great guests from the project lined up over the coming weeks, so make sure you subscribe to see that content. Just like the giant Korean airship at the airport that sees you off when you leave, this project looks like it could shoot to the moon.